They say that if you hear your name whispered by the Black River, deep in the Amazon at dusk, it's already too late. Because the river doesn't call the living, it calls the souls that need to cross. I am Kanauã, the shaman of the Amazon rainforest, and tonight I will reveal something that was never meant to be told, a secret my grandfather shared with me before he vanished into the spirit world. It's 6 p.m, deep within the heart of the Amazon jungle. The sun sinks behind the treetops, painting the sky a blood red that reflects on the dark waters of the Black River. Prepare yourself, because once you hear the voices of the river, something inside you will change forever. Many moons ago, when I was just a young apprentice, a man named Ramiro arrived in our village. He came from distant lands, where the jungle meets the cities of concrete. Ramiro didn't believe our stories. He mocked our traditions and said that spirits were just tales to scare children. But the jungle has ways of teaching respect to those who have forgotten it. That evening, as the sky turned orange and purple, Ramiro decided to go fishing alone in the Black River. We warned him not to go, that when night falls, the river awakens. But he only laughed arrogantly, took his canoe, and paddled toward the center of the black waters. At 7 o'clock, darkness fell suddenly, like a heavy cloak covering everything. The sounds of the night began, the chirping of crickets, the cries of howling monkeys, the cracking of branches. But something else blended with those sounds, something that made the elders exchange worried glances. They were voices, voices rising from the river. At first, they sounded like distant murmurs, but with each minute they grew clearer, more insistent. And the most disturbing thing was that they were calling names, names of people who had lived in our village decades ago, people who were no longer among the living. At 8 o'clock, my grandfather, the page of our tribe, approached the riverbank with his ceremonial staff. His face showed deep concern. He gestured for me to follow, and together we stared into the waters of the Black River. Then we heard it. A voice, clear as crystal, rose from the water. "Kanauã, come with us. The water is warm, and down here there is no pain." It was my mother's voice. She had passed away when I was only 5 years old. I recognized every tone, every inflection. It was her, and yet I knew it couldn't be. My grandfather grabbed me firmly as I took an involuntary step toward the water. "They're not who you think they are," he whispered urgently. "They are the Yarma, the river spirits. They take the voices of our departed, loved ones to lure us into the depths. Once you touch the water when they call you, your soul belongs to them." But Ramiro was still out there, alone, unaware of these truths. At 9 o'clock, we saw a strange light in the middle of the river. It wasn't a reflection of the moon. It was a bluish-green luminescence pulsing from beneath the water, as if the riverbed itself had come alive. The light moved, forming hypnotic patterns that hurt the eyes. From the shore, we could see Ramiro's silhouette motionless in his canoe, as if in a trance. The voices of the river had multiplied. Now there were dozens, perhaps hundreds, all calling, all whispering promises of impossible reunions. A cacophony of longing and sorrow, crafted to break even the strongest spirit. At 10 o'clock, my grandfather made a decision. He prepared a sacred mix of tobacco and healing herbs and began to chant in our ancestral tongue, words resonating with the power of 1,000 generations. His voice sliced through the night air like a blade of light in the darkness. The chants had an effect. The light beneath the water began to retreat. The voices of the river grew sharper, more desperate, as if they knew their prey was slipping away. But my grandfather did not stop. He sang for hours, his voice unwavering. It was 11:30 when something emerged from the water beside Ramiro's canoe. I cannot describe it exactly, but it was something large, something that should not exist. It had a vaguely human shape, yet its proportions were all wrong. as if someone had tried to recreate a human being and failed horribly. The creature extended what looked like an arm toward Ramiro. Its fingers were long and ended in tips that glowed with the same bluish-green light. Ramiro, still in trance, began to raise his own hand toward it, like a child reaching for a desired toy. That was when my grandfather did something I had never seen before. He stopped chanting and, with a voice that seemed to resonate from the very center of the earth, he shouted a name. It wasn't in Spanish, nor in our tribal language. It was something older, something primordial, that made the air vibrate with power. The creature froze. For an endless moment, everything fell into absolute silence. No insects, no animals, not even the wind dared to move. It was as if the entire jungle was holding its breath. Then the creature sank back into the depths with a sound that was half splash, half shriek of frustration. The light beneath the water faded completely, and the voices went silent all at once, leaving a hollow stillness. So deep our ears rang from the absence of sound. At midnight, Ramiro's canoe began drifting toward the shore, carried by an impossible current. When we pulled him out, he was alive, but empty. His eyes were open, yet they did not see. It was as if his spirit had been torn away, leaving only the physical shell behind. My grandfather worked on him all night, using ancient shamanic rituals to bring his soul back. The entire village gathered, forming a circle of protection. At 1 a.m, we saw the first sign. Ramiro's fingers twitched. At 2, he finally closed his eyes, and my grandfather sighed with relief. But the night wasn't over. At 3 a.m, when darkness is thickest and the world of the living is closest to the world of spirits, the river spoke again. This time, they were not human voices. It was a guttural, deep sound that vibrated through our bones. The sound of an ancient intelligence's anger, a power that had been challenged and defeated. My grandfather stood by the shore, firm as the giant saber trees. "This is our land," he declared with a powerful voice. "We respect the river and its inhabitants, but we will not allow them to take our brothers. Ramiro was under our protection, and that protection is not easily broken." The sound continued for minutes, then began to fade downstream, retreating to territories where even we fear to wander. By 4 a.m, Ramiro finally woke. His first act was to vomit water, liters of Black River water that should not have been in his lungs, since he had never fallen in. When he could finally speak, what he told us confirmed our worst fears. "I was under the water," he said, his voice trembling, "but I could breathe. There was a city down there, made of stones that glowed with their own light. The streets were filled with people, or what used to be people. They called me, told me to stay, said that there I could be reunited with everyone I'd ever lost. I saw my dead mother, childhood friends, my first love, all smiling, reaching out their hands." He paused, shaking, but their eyes were empty. And when they came closer, I saw their smiles were too wide, their fingers too long, their movements too smooth. They weren't my loved ones. They were something wearing their faces like masks. Ramiro told us that just as he was about to take his mother's hand, he heard my grandfather's voice echoing in those impossible depths, calling him back. That voice gave him strength to resist, to see through the illusion. When I rejected their hands, he said, their faces changed. The masks fell away, and I saw what they really were. They were hunger, they were emptiness, and they were furious that their prey had escaped. At 5 a.m, the first rays of sunlight touched the horizon. The golden light of dawn dissolved the night's shadows. With the light came restored normality. The birds sang. The howler monkeys greeted the new day, and the Black River looked as it did by day, majestic, beautiful, vital to the forest. Ramiro stayed in our village for 3 weeks to recover. When he finally left, he was a changed man, The arrogant skeptic was gone. Now he understood that there are forces in the Amazon beyond anything the modern mind can comprehend. Before leaving, he stood on the shore at sunrise. "Forgive me," he whispered to the river with genuine respect. "I did not know. Now I do. And I swear I saw something move beneath the surface, something vast and ancient that seemed to nod in acknowledgement. Many years have passed since that night. I have become the page of my people, following in my grandfather's footsteps. I have seen many things, faced spirits, and guided lost souls. But what I learned by the Black River remains the most important lesson of my life. The Amazon rainforest is not just trees and animals. It is a living, conscious being with its own rules and inhabitants that exist on the edges between worlds. The Black River is a place of power, a threshold between dimensions. By day, it is safe, beautiful, but when night falls, it becomes a portal to realms where the living should never venture. The voices heard in the river are real, just as real as the one speaking to you now. They're the Yarama, ancient spirits who know our deepest desires and most painful losses, and they use that knowledge to lure us in. They are not evil, they are simply hungry. Hungry for life, warmth, human essence. If you ever find yourself in the Amazon, near the Black River or any of the great rivers, and you hear voices at night calling your name in the tone of someone you once loved and lost, I beg you, remember this story. Do not answer. Do not approach the water. No matter how convincing it sounds, no matter how much your heart longs for that impossible reunion, resist, because the river never returns what it takes. And once you cross that threshold, no shaman can bring you back whole. The jungle guards its secrets jealously, and the Black River guards the darkest of them all. The voices from the hidden world still call every night, waiting for those curious, desperate, or arrogant enough to ignore the warnings of the elders. And now, as the sun rises once more over the forest, as light dispels the mysteries of the night, I ask you one question. Are you ready to accept that there are things beyond your understanding? Are you willing to believe that the jungle spoke to you tonight, that it shared one of its deepest secrets? If your answer is yes, if something within you resonated with this ancient truth, then write in the comments, I accept the call. If the jungle spoke to your soul, and if this story touched you, if it made you feel even a fraction of the respect these mysteries deserve, help me share this wisdom with others who need to hear it. The jungle has entrusted me with its secrets so that I may share them, and everyone who listens becomes another guardian of these ancient truths. Join our community, stay alert to the signs, and always remember, when the river calls your name in the dark, the only right answer is silence.